As the sun sets over Wall Street, the air crackles with tension. The latest consumer price index data has just been released, revealing a startling truth. Inflation is not just a specter of the past, but a formidable beast that refuses to be tamed. With the numbers soaring, driven by relentless services and stubborn housing costs, the financial world braces itself for the repercussions that could echo through the economy for years to come. As the echoes of the 2008 financial crisis still reverberate through the corridors of power, the economy stands at a crossroads. Rising inflation, a consequence of unprecedented monetary policy and global supply chain disruptions, has reshaped consumer behavior and expectations. In this volatile climate, the Consumer Price Index emerges as a critical barometer, reflecting not just numbers, but the very pulse of an anxious nation grappling with the soaring costs of essential services and housing. As Wall Street grapples with the latest CPI data, it finds itself navigating a complex landscape shaped by decades of economic upheaval. The specter of inflation has loomed large since the pandemic's onset, as rising prices for essential services and housing have become a stubborn reality. This moment echoes a historical struggle where the forces of supply and demand clash against the backdrop of geopolitical uncertainties, reshaping the lives of millions. In this intricate dance of numbers, the stakes could not be higher. In the annals of economic history, the Consumer Price Index has served as both a beacon and a battleground, illuminating the intricate dance between demand and inflation. This November, as Wall Street grapples with the implications of a hotter-than-anticipated CPI, we are reminded of past struggles where rising service and housing costs have tested the resilience of the American economy. Each data point, steeped in the weight of expectation, echoes the relentless tide of inflation that has shaped fiscal policies and consumer behavior for decades. As we traverse the annals of economic history, the specter of inflation looms large, a recurring theme that shapes the destiny of nations. From the post-war boom of the 1950s to the stagflation of the 1970s, the Consumer Price Index has served as both a barometer and a battleground for policymakers and economists alike. Now, as November's CPI data emerges, it echoes decades of struggle against the relentless forces of sticky services and soaring housing costs, reminding us that the fight against inflation is far from over. As Wall Street absorbs the latest CPI data, the air thickens with uncertainty and trepidation. The unexpected surge in inflation, fueled by persistent costs in services and housing, sends ripples of anxiety through the markets. Investors, once confident, now wrestle with the implications of a tightening economy, their every decision weighed against the backdrop of rising interest rates and potential recession. The stakes have never been higher, as the financial landscape shifts beneath their feet, threatening to reshape the future. As Wall Street digests the November CPI data, a palpable tension hangs in the air. The unexpected surge in consumer prices, driven by stubbornly high service and housing costs, sends ripples of anxiety through the financial markets. Investors, once confident, now grapple with the harsh reality of inflation's relentless grip, fueling fears of a more aggressive response from the Federal Reserve. With each tick of the market, the stakes rise and the future of the economy teeters on a knife's edge. As Wall Street absorbs the shock of the November CPI data, a palpable tension electrifies the trading floors. The numbers, hotter than anticipated, signal a fierce battle between stubbornly rising service costs and the relentless grip of housing prices. Each tick of the market reflects a deeper anxiety as investors brace for the implications of a potentially unyielding inflationary tide. If you find this video insightful, please consider subscribing to support this channel. The stakes are rising, and the once certain trajectory of the economy hangs in a delicate balance, inviting both dread and determination. As Wall Street absorbs the implications of the November CPI data, the landscape of global finance shifts beneath our feet. Rivals eye one another across the geopolitical chessboard, each maneuvering to capitalize on the unexpected surge in inflation, driven by persistent service and housing costs. In this high-stakes arena, the balance of power hangs precariously. as nations weigh their responses in an effort to maintain dominance amidst rising economic turmoil. As Wall Street digests the November CPI data, the implications ripple far beyond the stock market. In a world where economic numbers dictate the balance of power, nations watch closely, recalibrating their strategies amid rising inflation. The United States finds itself poised in a delicate dance, navigating the treacherous waters of global rivalries, where every decision can shift alliances and incite conflicts. In this intricate game of geopolitics, the stakes have never been higher and the outcomes more uncertain. As Wall Street grapples with the scorching November CPI data, the stakes extend far beyond mere numbers. In a world where economic indicators become instruments of power, nations maneuver with precision, each seeking to outwit the other. Diplomatic tensions escalate as rising costs in services and housing threaten to reshape alliances and provoke rivalries, revealing the fragile balance of global economic supremacy. As the November CPI data unfurled its stark revelations, Wall Street held its breath, the air thick with anticipation and dread. The numbers painted a portrait of an economy grappling with relentless inflation, driven not just by fleeting trends, but by the stubborn grip of housing costs and the insatiable appetite for services. This was not merely a report. It was a clarion call, a decisive turning point that sent shockwaves through the financial landscape and ignited fears of a deeper, more pervasive crisis. In the gilded halls of power, the implications of this data echoed, heralding a new era of uncertainty. As Wall Street absorbed the November CPI data, a palpable tension gripped the trading floors. The numbers were hotter than anticipated, igniting fears of a relentless inflationary tide. Driven by stubbornly high service and housing costs, the revelation sent shockwaves through the market, shifting the balance of power and forcing investors to reevaluate their strategies. It was a decisive moment, one that would reverberate through the corridors of economic influence and reshape the future of financial landscapes. As Wall Street digests the November CPI data, the reverberations of a hotter-than-expected inflation figure begin to echo across the global financial landscape. Nations brace themselves, their economies poised on a knife's edge, where rising service and housing costs threaten to unravel the fragile fabric of recovery. Investors, wary yet resolute, recalibrate their strategies, understanding that every percentage point carries the weight of uncertain futures and the potential for widespread turmoil. As the November CPI data reverberates through the hallowed halls of Wall Street, the consequences of this unexpected surge in inflation begin to unfurl. Nations brace themselves, grappling with the tightening grip of rising costs, while markets shudder under the weight of uncertainty. Households, already feeling the strain, face a stark reality where the dream of financial stability slips further from their grasp, turning everyday decisions into a battleground of survival. As Wall Street grapples with the implications of this latest CPI revelation, we find ourselves at a crossroads in economic history. The persistent rise in services and housing costs serves as a stark reminder of the complexities that lie ahead. What does this mean for the average American? In a world where every dollar counts, the future remains uncertain. Yet the lessons of today will shape the financial landscape of tomorrow. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the next documentary.